Welcome. You may look out into the darkness and think that there's nothing there, but we invite you to see through night vision because frankly, it's trippy. It's worth it. You might hit a few cars, but all right, gentlemen. Oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
Trying to fucking sneak some
You
pizza in,
thought
dude.
you could do that quickly and get, but no.
I saw that and had to stifle my laugh because Nathan was doing the intro, dude.
Today, today is a mystery. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest one of the biggest crime stories of all time. In fact, this was called at the time the trial of the century, which obviously that went on to be used, for other trials as well. I think this was the first one. I'm not
We're
sure about
we're
that, but I
finally
think
going
this
to
was the
talk
first
about
one.
Tiger King.
Tiger King has been a long time coming. No, we're going to talk about a man who you don't hear about him a lot these days, but he used to be the most famous man in the world,
O.J.
and he's
Simpson.
thank you. We're talking about the O.J. Simpson of the
Oh, we
1930s.
are. Wait,
No, we're
are
talking
we?
about. I said
Okay,
of the
good.
1930s.
Oh, yes, yes. O.J. Simpson of the 1930s.
No, 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 no. Completely off base. Shut up and wait a second. We're talking about the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby.
Oh my God.
Gentlemen, gentlemen, are you familiar with the story of the Lindbergh baby kidnapping?
I am not very familiar. I've heard the term. I understand there was a kidnapping, and I think you've told me a little bit about this, but as with
In the
everything, you
past.
tell me in one ear, out the other.
Right.
Um, so I know a little bit. I know it. I'm going to let you do all the storytelling, but I know it didn't doesn't go great. But I don't know
Well, I've
too.
got,
I
oh, good.
It's my understanding that the Limber baby was eventually found, not in mint condition. Um, and
Yeah.
Slightly used.
Steve, are you familiar with the story of the Lindbergh
I'm
baby
familiar with
kidnapping?
Raising Arizona.
No, I've definitely heard it referenced, and I
Right.
know that yeah, I'm not super familiar with it. I think that Agatha Christie's uh, uh, Murder on the Orient Express. It's kind of like an allusion to it. It's like a parallel to where like a rich family's baby is kidnapped and so I don't think it was actually the Lindbergh baby, but I think Murder on the Orient Express is like a reference or an allusion to that. It's kind of like based on that. The names and everything are different, but I think that's my only familiarity with
Right.
I
the story, the Lindbergh baby
That makes
kidnapping.
sense.
But I've
I'm not
definitely
going to call
heard of it
Steve a
before. I've
liar.
definitely heard that title before, or
Right.
the story before.
I am familiar with the plot of Orient Express, and that does track because there are no babies in that story, and maybe that's because they're kidnapped and missing.
Because they've all been kidnapped. Yeah.
It's more
I've
about
never
a
seen or read it,
gangster
so
being killed.
I can't comment. But what I will say, I mean, I think I know something about that, but I don't want to say anything because it's like a spoiler. But
Okay.
so basically, Charles Lindbergh, for those of you who don't
Of
know,
cheese fame.
of cheese fame, yes. The man who the Lindbergh cheese was named after. No, Charles Lindbergh, for those of you who don't know, he made the first nonstop flight from New York to Paris
Yeah, he was
with a
an
distance
aviator.
of
Yeah.
3,600 miles. For the time, it was like the biggest thing ever. And he was the most famous guy ever for doing it. And especially because he wasn't backed by a company or like, he wasn't like a super professional
He wasn't
aviator. He was an
properly
amateur.
insured.
Corporate
Right.
sponsorships.
Right. He was what you call a barnstormer, which is that he would do shows over like areas where people would go to like farms and stuff. They would hang out. They would have like drinks and food, and they would watch people fly over in airplanes and do like tricks and stuff. And he did that for a long time before he ended up doing the Spirit of St. Louis flight, which is what he's most famous for, and what made him a super famous guy, and also super beloved guy. Uh, this man had a dance named after him at one point, gentlemen. It was
The
called the
Charleston?
Lin.
The Lindy
No,
Hop.
thank you. You know it.
The Lindy
It was
Yep.
Hop?
called the
Oh,
Lindy
well.
Hop, and there is a line. So I listen in preparation for this. I actually listened to two audiobooks, and but we're going to focus more on one of them. And that one audiobook was written by a woman named Lisa Perlman, and there's a specific line from the book, and I want to quote it when it has to do with his having to do with the dance, right? Okay. Party goers of all racial backgrounds started doing the Lindy Hop. Lindbergh was greatly offended.
Wow.
She does not. She does not elaborate on that in any way. So that
She
because
really should.
right after that, she says that he was just really annoyed at press focus. So you could interpret the last part of that line as just being about the press. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to offer that quote because I just thought it
Yeah.
was a really great quote.
It's
Uh,
very possible that they just don't like that anyone's doing a dance that maybe they feel is mocking them or some way. But it
yes,
definitely was like it like that all races line
That was,
gets
yeah,
a
that
lot
that's the
of
way that it read for sure.
that's lifting a
that's.
lot of eyebrows these
I thought that
days.
was an interesting. I thought that was an interesting quote.
Yeah, dude, that's such a they what
Um,
I mean, they could have just gone people from all around the world are doing the Lindy Hop and he's mad, but that's
I think it might have been something else as well as racial backgrounds, but
People
I
of
that's
all
what jumped out, and I was
pigments
like,
and ethnicities,
Mhm.
they're
the
doing what in my
handicapped
name?
and non.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
okay, so
People of all drinking fountains are
Yeah, population in
doing.
the inner cities are doing the
he
Lindy
also
Hop and he's mad about it.
he was also super popular with women, with the ladies, of course, as a guy who's as
Sure.
famous and handsome as he was would be. In fact, visually, he was the very stuff of Nordic Superman dreams, and
Oh.
we'll get into that in a bit. But he had a lot of attention that he didn't like from women because he was still a virgin, and for throughout his like famousness, his fame after he completed his
His
trip.
mistress was the Atlantic Ocean.
Exactly. He was fucking the Atlantic Ocean. But he was a virgin all through that and after that, and he was kind of looking at some point was finally looking for a bride. But up until that point, though, he got a lot of attention, and actually he had his underwear stolen, and he was really, yeah, he was really bothered by that.
He's a rock
That
star. Oh
yeah,
man.
he was a rock star, but he was a rock star who didn't want to be a rock star, and he finally decided that he was going to find his wife. And when he decided to find his wife, he wanted to find someone who was genetically fit to be his wife because this was a man who believed very much in genetics.
A
Uh,
mother who would keep an eye on their kids like a hawk. That's what he wanted.
and I just want to say real quick in 1927, because I wrote this down, in 1927, Charles Lindbergh received a plaque from the Minnesota Eugenics Society in recognition of his superior genetic endowment, and he was very much in agreement, and he was a eugenicist, and was like basically thought you should treat breeding humans like dogs, and that so he was like I need to find someone who's healthy, a woman who can foster my young, and so he went around looking for someone for just that purpose. But before we get to that, though, let's talk about something really fun about him. He loved practical jokes. And Matthew, you're someone who likes a practical joke now and then. I'm sure you can relate to that.
I do.
Well,
Am I supposed to expand on
All right,
this?
that's
let's
settled.
see. Let's
Continue.
see if let's see if you can relate to this.
Oh yeah.
One of his more famous practical jokes is he once filled up a water pitcher with kerosene and
Mhm.
had the guy who was a younger pilot who worked with him when he was in the military. I think he was military. I might have missed that part, but he filled up a water pitcher with kerosene, and this dude drank like two big gulps of it, and he burned his fucking throat. And he went to the hospital, and I think he almost died. Like it was a serious, serious thing. And he was like, "Yeah, I might have gone a little far with that one." But like that's
Yeah.
about all he had to say about it. Like
Classic goof, you know.
classic kind of practical joke.
Timeless,
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah,
It's
that old
staple.
staple. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
This he was a practical joking type, but you'll notice that the practical jokes were a little, and that might have had something to do with an incident that happened early in birth. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But we know that when he was very, very young, I should have told this story at the beginning of the podcast, but I'm remembering it now, so I'll tell it now. When he was very, very young, he almost drowned. He struggled in a lake and he almost drowned. He finally got himself out of the lake, and when he got to the surface, he looked over and he saw his dad staring, and he realized that his dad had done nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So Lindbergh kind of had this in his head, I think, his whole life. And I don't want to psychoanalyze. I'm not like an expert in that kind of thing, but it does seem to have possibly affected the way that he looked at stuff because he was not a very emotional man throughout most of his life. So I don't.
You,
Do you
you know what
think
was
that
another?
maybe it would be safe to say that the experience of him drowning, that is to say, being, with having your lungs and body filled with water until you die, was the reason that he gave the other guy kerosene to drink, and that he wanted to make sure that his insides were filled with something flammable, which is the opposite of water.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a theory, Steve.
That's really deep,
It's a
Steve.
stretch.
Uh,
It's a
Yeah.
stretch.
I'm gonna
You know
go ahead and
what?
say no.
You know what was another
That's fair.
classic, or just really funny gag to pull on someone at that time?
Ah,
Steal their baby
well, it's funny you say it like that, but
from
that's
one
sort of
prankster to
true.
another. Game got to recognize game.
Well, you joking, but that's sort of true. It was a trend at the time to kidnap kids, but not as a practical joke, more for money.
More as
And
an impractical joke.
it was a very impractical joke because
Someone call Sal Volcano.
9 times out of 10, the kids would not come back alive. That's the unfortunate thing about the kidnapping situation and this was during the Great Depression. So during the
Okay,
Great
nine
Depression.
out of times the kid doesn't come back alive, but how many times did they get paid? Because that's going to factor into how much I care. Because if you do the ransom and you get
I
the
don't know.
money and then kill the kid anyway, you're an asshole.
I
If you
can't.
give the kid back, you're a businessman.
I can't
Yeah.
answer that question in terms of like the odds, like how many did that. I can't say that.
All right.
I can tell you what he did.
It
I can tell you.
it had to have been like a pretty regular thing for them to pay the ransom. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been such a rampant thing that was going on, rampant crime, right?
No.
If it was like, well,
Well,
yeah, no one ever pays the ransom, so let's keep kidnapping. Oh, they'll pay it this time, but
that's the
if
thing.
out
That's
of
the
those
thing
10, if eight
is,
out of the 10 they got
yeah.
ransom, they're like, this is a surefire way to make money. Follow me for more recipes.
I don't have the
That's why
information, but
I'm
I would assume what he's saying that like enough people had to have paid for it to be a thing that you would
Hmm.
do. So
I've already talked this over with my wife. Every kid we have, we're going to have them rigged to explode so that if they ever get kidnapped when they ask for the ransom, I was like, no, no, you pay us a ransom. You have a bomb and we got the button, buddy.
Nice. I was thinking, or like
We
that,
turn
like
those tables.
in the original movie, The Running Man with Schwarzenegger, where they're in the mine, if they go past that like invisible barrier, they explode. But yeah, I think having the button is way better.
I like that.
Mhm.
Rig your baby with a bomb. Well, anyway, so yeah, it was a thing. It was a thing that happened a lot. Unfortunately, was it finally happened
But
to
not to the wealthy, not to the eugenics society golden boy.
yeah, exactly. I mean, who has a problem with him? But so when his wife was pregnant, uh, publishers were offering $2,000, which is the equivalent of $29,000 nowadays, for any reliable info on the child's birth. Now That's pretty vague shit, right?
Like, what do they want? They want a gender reveal? Like,
I guess so. Yeah, that would probably be one of the things. Yeah, but it has to be reliable.
is it
Yeah,
black? That I would if it was I would pay $50,000 for that information.
I think they would cover that up pretty quickly if they back then if they found that
He
type of
has a
thing.
black baby and it instantly starts comes out of the womb doing the Lindbergh bop. What's it called?
I think the Lindy
Lindy, the
Hop.
Lindy Hop.
I think if they had a black baby, they'd be like, "Wow." So, because he took the wife up into the air with him, so they'd be like, "Oh, that was a side effect of the."
That
Because that's
kid's
the
not
thing.
mine. How do you know it's not yours? Like, look, he's doing the Lindy hop bop hop. It's clear
Exactly.
your kid dances
What is
just
the
like
thing?
you, man.
Because they were trying to get pictures and they were trying to get knowledge, information about the baby. Charles didn't want them to have any pictures or anything. He was really pissed off, and this led to rumors that the child was deformed.
Oh.
Charles finally shared a few pictures of his curly-haired son, but that only led to more interest.
Curly
So,
haired. It was deformed.
exactly, exactly. But they would later say that the boy had rickets, which is an issue that can it can cause issue with with walking, basically. But
Mhm.
it's possible that there was a bit more
Diseases
to it than
sounded
that.
so much more fun back then.
It's possible that there was a
Polio,
bit
rickets,
well, yeah, rickets, exactly. It's possible there was a bit more to it than that though, because doctor that was examining him made a note that the boy had an enlarged square head and an unclosed fontanelle long after it should have
Minecraft.
been closed. Well, there was no Minecraft back then, so that couldn't have
He
explained
was a
it.
Minecraft person.
Minecraft actually happened in actual mines.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. But yeah, so he had like a squarish
He
head.
yeah,
Okay.
he was the inspiration for the
Yeah,
Minecraft people.
yeah, yeah. But the doctor didn't know that, so he thought it was a medical problem. So, but that's not rickets, by the way.
Well, it
Rickets did
shouldn't have
not
been
give you a
because the mother
square
had a
head.
square vagina. Square vagina, you get a cube head.
That's why he got the Minnesota Eugenics Society award for the perfectly square reproductive organs. Wait, okay,
Well, so
so
I think you're hitting on something there, Steve, and I want you to keep that in mind. But go ahead.
no, I was just gonna so so they all just thought of this based on like a picture that Lindbergh gave to the press finally after he relented when they all were saying that he was deformed or something.
No, the square head thing comes from his doctor. This is a note that we got years later, right?
Okay.
But like the doctor said that he wrote down a note that it had a square head, and that his fontanelle had not closed. And at
Okay.
that point, the fontanelle, for those who don't know, is like the soft part on the top of the baby's
Yeah.
head.
Okay.
He says that like at that point it should have closed and it hadn't closed yet. And all of these things are possible symptoms of something called hydrocephalus, and that would be a defect that could, or I don't know if it's a defect, but it's obviously a problem that could actually lead to early death.
Is that like a
And
waterhead baby? I think that's the term. It's
yeah,
like not a great term, but yeah. Okay.
I believe that is exactly it because it involves liquid building up in the head. So I believe that
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah, it's it's pretty awful, and I think there's all sorts of reasons that someone might have hydrocephalus. But one possible cause of hydrocephalus is oxygen deprivation at high altitudes. And again,
Oh.
yeah, and again, the wife went up in the plane when she was pregnant, and we know that for a fact.
Is that a problem like today? Like, because I don't, maybe I'm not on the loop, but are pregnant women encouraged to not get on planes?
Well, it wasn't simply getting on an aircraft. It was the fact of the type of stuff he was doing. He was going really high. He was going
Well,
for long periods of time. He was trying to, do stuff dangerously and break more records and things. And so he did not just bring her on a commercial jet flight to Disney World or whatever, you know what I mean? Like He was doing
He was
stuff,
doing
and
loop
she
loops.
was afraid. Yeah, and she was afraid. She was afraid of it, and she told people multiple times. But she was also afraid of losing him. And so that's get a whole too dramatic. But basically, like she felt that if she didn't do it, he would find somebody else. You know, and so because the so something that I didn't bring up is that he was originally not interested in her. Her name was Anne. He was interested in her sister. Her
Tale as
sister
old as time. Another great
uh,
prank.
who
Hmm.
was like effortless with men. You know, all the men were attracted to her, but she had a bad heart problem.
Two sizes too small.
So
She had an unfaithful heart was the defect.
She hated
oh,
Christmas.
well, whatever maybe this is a metaphor. Whatever the reason, he chose the sister, and the sister Anne happened to be devoted to him, infatuated because probably partially because she knew that he liked the other sister. Uh, but that became it. He chose Anne, and she was the wife. So I think that she always kept that devotion throughout her life, and part of that was going up and playing with him. So partially because of the press interest, he chose a home that was pretty secluded. It was in New Jersey, in a densely wooded area that locals called the Sourlands, and it was not far from Princeton, but there were only three other houses within a mile of nearly 400 acres. Oh no, sorry, within a mile of his 400-acre tract. Sorry, apologies. The area was sparsely inhabited, difficult to access, thickly wooded, and clogged with underbrush, and practically without police protection. The town of Hopewell, more than 3 miles away, had just 900 residents. So, you know, you got a lot of press, you got a lot of annoying people bothering you, chicks stealing your underwear. So you move to this estate, this 400-acre estate. It's a farmhouse that's in New Jersey that's like pretty secluded, you know. Is that what you guys would do in his situation? What do you think about that?
This was okay. So hang on. This was his house in he moved to New Jersey after
Yes.
into this estate after he had gotten his underwear stolen.
And the media putting up bounties on baby information.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Um,
was. It was after the underwear getting stolen and after people being
and he
really,
has
really
curly
Okay.
hair.
Yeah. I'm trying
He's a
to
fucking fat kid with curly
I got
hair.
my
fat.
notebook here, and I'm just trying to kind of like piece together this timeline. So I wanted to make sure I've got all the facts right. So all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He took the kid over. So, what do you guys think? I mean, would you do that, or
I
do
don't
you
think that's a
think that
bad
that would be?
move.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, get some fucking space. You know, yeah, get out of the public eye. You know, it's not like these days where everyone's like so fucking starved for attention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know, and I feel like if you're really, like a diehard aviator, you get a big patch of land, and then you can pave and build your own runway and hangar and stuff in there, and then you're not kind of beholden to the probably fees and taxes. And yeah, dude, I think that's the move. If you've got the money, get like seclude, go for it, get out there, man.
Yeah, I
my
mean, I
one
basically.
concern,
Oh, go ahead.
my one concern. You said he moved to like a farmhouse.
Yeah,
So how
it's
often was he
nice.
having to? Yeah, sure. I know. Yeah, farms can be lovely, but how often was he raising barns? Because we do know he was burning them.
God damn it.
I said Barnstormer. I think was it Barn Burner?
Barnstormer.
Is Barn Burner what it's actually called? I don't know, but
What is a barn burn? That's a party, right?
A barn burner, yeah, I think is like a party, like a big
Yeah, he wasn't
party.
throwing many parties. A barn storming.
no,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
by the way, I thought where the term barn storming came from was the airplane trick where you open both barn doors and they like fly through that like kind of like
Oh
narrow
yeah,
gap.
yeah, yeah.
Is that any logic or truth to that?
I
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
it's
I
think
think
just
that's
I
I think
didn't
that's
really
where the
put it
name came from.
together, but that seems right to me.
But anyway, so on March 1st, 1932, around 9 p.m., the Lindberghs headed briefly to the living room and then upstairs to the master bedroom. Neither of them checked on their son. Just before 10 p.m., Betty Gow, who was the Irish nurse, uh,
Hmm. Write that down.
returned.
Irish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think she was Irish. I'll have to look that up. If she's not, you don't have to arrest her. But she returned to the nursery from a visit with some friends. And upon entering the baby's room, she was disturbed not to hear the child breathing. And so she quickly realized that he was gone. Now, the thing about this is the boy had been under a small blanket. They used thumbtacks or safety pins, actually, safety pins, I think, to harness it to the mattress to basically kind of keep the kid down.
Hmm.
The blanket had been ripped out of that, and in such a way that suggested that the boy may have been grabbed by his head or his leg or like basically like an awkward position that would have hurt.
It's yeah, it's not
Uh,
someone picking up a baby normally.
no, it didn't look good.
He got
Um,
yanked. Okay.
yeah, but he was gone, and so okay, freak out situation. And so she ran to Anne, the mom, and told her, the baby's gone. Well, Anne's first thought was, what do you guys think that Anne's first thought was, guys?
Are my safety pins all right?
That's a good one. Matthew, what do you think Anne's first thought was?
I have no idea. Do we, is it on record what her first thought was? What she
Not
claims her.
not thought, but what did she say? Well, actually, yeah, I know. Yeah, this is her first thought. What did her mind go to when this happened immediately?
I'm gonna lose my job. Like
You've
where?
got no, no, Anne is the mom of the baby,
Anne's the
Oh,
wife.
oh, sorry,
The
right?
sorry.
yeah.
So what do you think Anne
I,
thought?
I, I I was right not to hire the Irish.
We are going to save a fortune on baby formula.
So her first thought is Charles playing a prank again?
Wow.
Because Charles had previously hidden the baby in a closet for about 40 minutes to an hour.
Filled with kerosene.
Cla-
And he
Classic
freaked everybody out.
the dad hiding the baby prank.
Charles and his
Yeah,
kerosene-based pranks.
yeah.
Okay.
And so
The
she
bo-
was like,
the
he's doing it again. He must be doing it again, right?
Yeah,
And
fucking Charles up to his old shenanigans.
Yeah. Okay. So she her
Watch what you
first thought
drink,
is
guys.
Charles has hidden the baby again.
right. So
Charles is a
she's like, let's see if the Colonel must have him. They called him the Colonel because after his
honey.
trip,
I vanished the child.
after so after his trip, the government had bestowed upon him the honorary rank of colonel, a title, I guess. I don't even know what counts as a rank, but
But
so
how did they compliment his genes though?
what?
They didn't. No, to date, as far as we know now, only Minnesota has complimented
Oh,
and awarded his genes.
I'm such an idiot. I swear to God, I thought you meant blue jeans, and I was like, what does that have to do with shit, dude?
Okay,
So
so
he didn't give a
she
shit.
goes, Charles is playing another joke. Charles,
Right,
where's the damn baby?
and he says, the baby, isn't he in his crib? And so
Which is
he
what a
runs
prankster would say.
upstairs.
With a
If I
smirk.
hid my baby, that's the first thing I would say.
Yeah.
He runs upstairs, can't find the baby, so he goes to his room, pulls out his rifle, and as he leaves his room,
I'm gonna kill that
says
damn baby.
It's loose. I have to protect society from its curly hair. And
he grabs his
it's
rifle and
square head. No one must know.
he tells his wife, they have stolen our baby. So
They
he's trying to make it clear, like, no, it's not a prank. Um,
who who's they, Charles? All the people doing the Lindy Hop.
and that's an interesting
Damn.
question. Who's they? The Hopewell police reported that it was 10:22 when they received the call about the baby, and the state police received the call at 10:25. The area had
The cop.
overlapping jurisdictions, so they were both going to attend to it. But it's interesting that it had overlapping jurisdictions because that caused some confusion. But
Did the cops take this seriously at the beginning, or were they also like
oh yeah,
another
oh yeah.
classic prank?
Oh no, they took it very, very seriously, and
Oh, good.
I'll get to how seriously it was taken in a second. But Lindbergh said he had been in the study and he hadn't heard anything. The cops noticed that the room that the baby had been in was littered with objects that hadn't been disturbed or made a noise. And Anne hadn't heard a noise from upstairs either. She had heard a couple of things outside. There was also a large chest in front of the open window because there was an open window they found, and on the open
It was
windowsill
Peter
it
Pan.
was on the open windowsill was an envelope with the ransom note. Uh,
Oh.
the cops were perplexed by the fact that the chest was right in front of the window. So whoever came through the window would had to have moved the chest. In
First
order
floor
to move,
window?
huh?
Was it the first floor window?
Oh
No,
no.
it was second floor.
Thank you
Okay.
for looking that up, Steve, because I was going to have to look it up. I forgot which floor it was.
Well, no,
I
because you'd mentioned because Betty
It was
Gal,
ninth
you said
floor.
she went upstairs to check on the baby. So,
There you
uh,
go. I just didn't
So
know if it was second or
so
third or whatever. But
how do you get a baby? How do you carry a baby down a second story window?
they were perplexed because in order to get through the window, you'd have to move the chest. That would mean they would have to have heard downstairs the sound of this huge chest being moved. Nobody heard that, right? Lindbergh was offered help from the local college, from Princeton, not local college, from Princeton. The president of Princeton said, "I'll give you students to go looking," and he said, "No, that's okay." And they said, "You should use bloodhounds." He was like, "No, that's okay."
They smell better than college students.
He was like,
their
"I
noses are
will."
more effective.
He said instead he was like, "Me and the cops will go look." So him and like four cops went off looking for stuff. He immediately led them over to a ladder that was on the ground, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that's literally what happened. He led them immediately there. The cops said that they were blown away by the fact that he immediately led them there, and they're like, "Oh, they found a ladder." It was a three-part sectional ladder, and it was in pieces, right?
Was it Lindbergh's ladder? Like, did he own the ladder that the crook
He did,
used?
he said it wasn't.
Okay.
It
They
was
brought their
supposed
own
to have
ladder,
been. Yeah, they were supposed to have brought their own ladder. There was
which
also
is
a
also
big
smart. I can see that.
smush in the mud because it had been raining, I believe. There was a big smush in the mud where it looked like somebody had hit the ground, right? And there was
A square imprint
yeah,
laid
yeah,
Yeah.
on the floor, as if someone dropped a cinder block
yeah.
in the mud. Why are you laughing? This is horrible.
I know, you piece of shit. Okay, all right. So and he also immediately pointed out a dowel that he found on the ground. The head
Mm.
of the state
Corn
police.
dog.
So you were talking about we were talking about earlier about the cops and like how favorable they were toward him. The head of the state police was a man named Colonel Norman Schwarzkopf. Schwarzkopf was devoted to Lindbergh. He hero worshipped him like no one's ever hero worshipped, and he would later tell a reporter that and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm using the words he actually used. I will point out specific words. He said that he would there is no oath that he wouldn't break. He used those
Ow!
words if it materially helped Lindbergh. He said that to somebody out loud.
See, I would want to hear that as a father of a missing kid, not so much like a voter in the next election of police chief.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
There's no
So
line I'm
they
not going to cross to find this baby.
so the state police fingerprint expert was amazed that not only could he not find fingerprints for the kidnapper, he couldn't find any fingerprints in that room at all. And one of the policemen that was there actually commented, "I'll be damned if somebody didn't wipe down this whole place before we got here." It's really weird. It's
Oh,
odd because no, like this is a fact. They couldn't find any fingerprints in the room. They said even if the guy had been wearing gloves, they would have found Lindbergh's fingerprints because he found the envelope. So it's like, how does that make any sense? So that's a weird little fact. The press quickly descended on the farmhouse, and Lindbergh was uncharacteristically welcoming to them. He was like, "Yes, yes, please come in, come in,"
oh,
and
uh,
they're helping find the kid, maybe, right? So maybe that's what's going on. Who knows? And he said make sure they get sandwiches and coffee, and
Yeah,
you know,
but it is a red flag that he said no to the Princeton kids because like if your kid went missing, you want everybody on it.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, any pair of eyes, even if there's fucking some dumb kid getting scammed going to college.
would you?
Let's yeah, you would.
Now things are really different in the modern day, but I'm pretty sure a parent in the modern day would be like, yes, get those college students on it. They're going to be the
Yeah.
fastest. They're going to be the most physically fit to go find my kid. But back then, who knows? Maybe a 30-year-old was more physically fit than a 20-year-old. I don't fucking know. Now, at this time, multiple people reported seeing two men in a car driving to and from the Lindbergh estate around the time of the kidnapping. They also reported the two men appearing in a public location. I think it was a diner, and out loud being like, "Do you know where the Lindbergh estate is?" And so, which is weird because, like, if you were a
Yeah.
kidnapper and you went to that area, you probably know where Lindbergh's estate is, right? Because, like, why would you put all that effort in to do that? And then you
Well,
have
it
to
was
ask a local where it is.
it was like it was in the middle of nowhere, right? It wasn't meant to be easy to find, and um and they didn't have Google Maps back then.
Sure.
Uh, no, I actually, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm giving people a little too much credit, but I think a legitimate kidnapper, a legitimate kidnapper, who knows the general area of where their mark is, might not know it if it was a specific kind of hidden out of the way farmhouse. I don't think it's like the craziest thing for back then to think that asking questions about where that is would draw too much suspicion before, or in a way that could come back to you. Like criminals do dumb shit all the time, and that's not even the dumbest thing I can think of.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, dude, I feel like it's so convenient that that it's like like that these two like no name randoms have just shown up, and like asked the pertinent questions that kind of like lead them to the crime. And like
Exactly.
here's the thing,
Exactly.
if this and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of the story, but like if you're in Depression era America and super rich Charles Lindbergh comes to you and goes, "Hey, I'll give you $20," which at the time was like probably $1,000. Go, "Hey, I'll give you $20 if the police question you. Tell them that you saw two men asking about my house in the
Oh,
diner, and that's it. No more than that. And then see you later." And then a couple days later,
or
sure enough, the police show up and they go, "Oh yeah, here you go." So
Steve,
that's again, I think that's going a little ahead of myself, maybe ahead of the story where you're at.
Steve,
I
Steve,
see your hand raised, Matthew.
Steve,
But
Steve, 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 Steve. Charles Lindbergh was a goddamned motherfucking American hero. And I'll
how dare
not
you slander?
have you besmirch him with these disgusting accusations,
Now,
okay?
but
you're right.
Holy
Steve,
You're right.
shit.
even if he was, I just want to point a hole in your plan. Wouldn't you find it much easier to give two guys like $50 and tell them to go around asking about where my house is, go start acting shifty as fuck, and then people will see that and have something to report truthfully?
Well,
Isn't that
that's
a much
exactly
easier plan than
Okay, so you're not above Charles Lindbergh bribing someone. Your deal is who is it going to be easier to bribe? The
no, like, well, like, yeah, we are on the same page.
Yeah.
You and I, Steve. We just went in different directions. I like when I hear about like, okay, there's these two guys acting shifty. You went with, oh, the town was bribed to report that when it didn't happen, and I'm saying I think it's easy to bribe two people into saying to acting shifty, so people will report that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, no, yours is I think yours is a little more thought out. Okay.
Could the guys have been paid to go around do it? Yeah, that's true. But would you, if you were someone who wanted to pay somebody to do that, would you really take the risk that you're going to pay a couple of guys and those guys aren't going to eventually tell on you? I don't know. That's its own
That's a good
question
question.
that must be posed as well. When asked for a description of his son, Lindbergh said that the boy was 29 inches tall. In fact, he was 33 inches tall. Lindbergh also provided a picture that was about a year old, and that picture was then sent out all across the country for people to look for the kid that looked like that picture. And they were told,
Well,
29
how
inches.
often are you taking a picture of your baby back then? Now you do it like fucking 50 times in a minute, but
There were
um
there were more recent pictures. He just didn't give them one.
interesting. Okay, fair,
Yes.
fair.
They try to work like talk to the ransomers, and he immediately makes it clear, Mr. Lindbergh, that he'll protect the ransomers if they give him the kit. He just wants the kit. And so the cops let him have complete control of the investigation. And that's not an exaggeration. He told everybody what to do. And he actually was able to have people thrown off of the case. At one point, there was a man who, I forget his name, but he was investigating them on the suspicion that they had killed their own son. And he actually was looking in their furnace and all sorts of stuff. One call was all it took, and that guy was off the case. Okay, and it's partially because Lindbergh knew the fucking president. That's another thing to throw into
Mhm.
this whole mess. He knew everybody, including the president, and they all loved him and they wanted to be helpful toward him. So eventually, Lindbergh and his lawyer, a guy named Breckenridge, they're trying to talk to the ransomers. So a guy named Condon, John Condon, reaches out and he says, I put a thing in the paper, I put an ad in the paper looking for the people, and I got a hold of them. I think I know who they are. I think I got a hold of them. If you come with me, you help me, I can give them the money and we can make a swap. So this John Condon guy, he's given like a certain amount of money, right? And he's given two different versions of the money. One of the versions is in gold certificates, and the other version is in cash. The gold certificates are easier to track, but when he meets up with the guy, he gives them the cash instead. He said it's because he was trying to save Lindbergh some money. Now, would you do that without asking Lindbergh about it first? Because I think I wouldn't do that without asking, because it's his own son, right? But he claims he didn't ask Lindbergh. He claims he did that on his own. And he gave the money to a guy named John. That's how he identified himself. Later on, they would find that money being spent by a man named Bruno Richard Hauptmann. And they would say that he was the killer. And when they investigate his home, they'll find that money in his wall, which does look pretty bad. But Hauptmann claims that he was given that money to hold by a friend of his named Isidora Fish. And this story is corroborated by another friend.
You know, you're right. This is sounding very fishy. There's a lot of
Mute
things
him.
that aren't.
Yes.
Ah, I didn't even mean that pun. That actually was unintentional. My bad.
Okay.
Um, no, this is looking a little suspicious. Things aren't adding up, and like I could see how. I don't know. It seems like such a big mistake. I think this is a cautionary tale of why we don't give celebrities lead of investigations anymore. So things like this can't get, all I don't know. I I know where we're going down. We all know like the path we're going down is like, did Charles have anything to do with this? And I'm wondering ladder out the window, fumbled the child. Do you think this was a prank gone wrong? Do you think he was once again up to his old shenanigans of di disappearing his child from the mother in an impossible way, only to reveal it? But he that's when he dropped the baby, and that's when he had to do all this stuff to cover his tracks.
No, no.
Okay.
I think that
All right, well,
that's
there you have it.
Facts.
because because if Charles had anything to do with it, he had a lot to do with it. Because
Well, I thought that's where we're going. It's Steve, am I wrong, or were you kind of playing around with not necessarily the prank gone wrong,
so
but
you think that he accidentally, like, he was like playing a prank and he dropped the kid? That's what you think?
it's a thought, but there it's either that or he wanted his kid dead for reasons of impurity or I don't know. I'm not trying to judge him. Well, I guess we are, but
You're not
there's no
trying to
good.
judge him for wanting his kid dead for reasons of impurity?
No, no, I get that. Like, I get that, dude. Like, for the guy that
I
is this like
Killing your
self-described,
kid is the opposite of a rhesus. There's no right way to do it.
yeah, yeah, no, but like I see what you're saying, Matthew. For for Charles Lindbergh, a self-described, like eugenicist and a guy that got the Minnesota Eugenics Society for
He
outstanding genes or
impregnated the wrong
whatever. Like
sister.
his kid with like square head, like open
Curly hair.
fontanelle, curly hair, like he's like probably not super proud of this child and how it turned
He's
out.
Probably
tired of
not.
hiding it in New Jersey.
Tired of hiding that curly hair. Hey,
So
and also, let me just because you'd mentioned when you kind of were going back and forward, the kid was born in 1930, so at the time he was kidnapped, he was 2 years old.
right.
And this may just be like my preference. At 2 years old, you're not a baby anymore. That's like toddler
It
age,
Oh
right?
yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Um, for me, I think three is when we're in like cemented toddler territory.
Yeah,
I
Two is
think
like
back then they would
yeah,
still
two
call it
is
a
pretty
baby.
babyish.
Okay, all right. Anyway, it's all semantics, but like I'm kind of going through like what I've written down here, and I've circled
You could
that
walk
on
at
my
two.
notebook. Yeah, yeah.
You could walk.
Babies don't walk. I don't think
Okay, shut. Okay,
so.
yeah.
They
Um,
crawl, Matthew. They
yeah.
crawl.
I guess
Well, he was.
maybe the like defining feature is it still using diapers? Maybe that's where you make the
Sure.
distinction. I don't know. Probably. Um,
Probably
so
still breastfeeding.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Mm.
We'll see.
So
Um,
eventually, well, before we get to that, uh, Charles is searching for the kid along with everybody else, and
Hmm.
he's also
Except the
trying to,
Princeton boys.
and he's also trying to communicate, with the ransomers. At one point, um, he's in a plane with Breckenridge, his lawyer, and some other guys, and Breckenridge takes over piloting, and he realizes that something's wrong, and he's like, oh my god, I can't." And I was like, "Oh my god!" And then Charles is like, and it turns out he's pulling another prank,
Hmm.
and they're like,
while they're searching for the baby.
and he did it more than once. He did it more than once. Okay,
Hey
and at
man,
one point,
it's a lifestyle. It's pranking is like it's who you are. It's in your DNA.
it's in your DNA.
You
And
you don't stop it because your child's
the
missing. Are you
boy,
insane?
the boy, had he lived, would have been a prank master. No, uh, at one point they are like, okay, we think he could be in this area based on something the Condon tells them, and so they're like, we should go in a plane, and he's like, no, we're gonna go on a boat, which is like, planes are your thing, dude. What do you and a plane would be
Don't
just much better.
don't pigeonhole Lindbergh.
I'm gonna
He's a
pigeonhole him.
Renaissance man.
In this
He's a
specific
court jester.
situation, a plane would have been better. But he
Sure.
instead of that, they go on a boat. After a while of searching on the boat, he goes, I'm he says this is the words he uses. He goes, I'm sick of hearing about the kidnapping. Let's play cards.
And the
They take
gambling
a
addicts.
they take a break. I didn't say gambled money, but they play cards.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's
No,
that's
poker,
who's
no.
guys.
Go fish.
Right. Right, exactly. And that's who this guy is. I should also note that like right after the baby was born, the mom was like, I want to take care of my baby. And he was like, no, let's go back up into the plane. And she's like, I just had a baby. I don't know if I. He's like, come on, let's go. And so, like, it was like
If he
six
had his
weeks.
druthers, the baby would have been born in the sky.
Yes. It was like 6 weeks after she had the baby. She went back up in the sky.
Hmm.
So that's the type of dude he was. And so anyway, eventually the boy's body is found. It's found by some random workers in an area that is an area that had been searched around the home. Now that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's an area that had been searched. And suddenly now his body was found, and it was badly decomposed. Badly decomposed. We're talking flesh was missing from the face, according to the person who found the kid. But there was basically no blood. There was. I want to say that again. There was basically no blood on the ground where the body was found. The body had again badly decomposed, and it would later be found that it had been cut. Now, decades later, the findings would be that this was not animal scratches. At the time, it was believed that the cuts and lacerations were animal cuts because
So you're telling me
animals.
this wasn't a boating accident?
Probably not. But it was definitely not animals. At least it doesn't seem like it was animals because again, no claw marks, no bite marks on the body. But this we didn't know this till decades later. So this wasn't even at the trial. I don't believe. Uh,
There was a trial.
Wait, when? Okay, so hang on. When was the baby actually found? The body of the baby found?
I think it was. I think it was 3 weeks after he went missing, but that could be totally wrong.
Okay, because
Let me
March
see.
March 1st was when it was just the whole thing went down.
So
Uh,
what would PSA have graded the child?
He was found March 12th,
okay, so 11 days later.
1930. No, 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 no. March 12th. No, I'm sorry. I fucked that up. May 12th.
May 12th. Oh shit. Okay,
That's
yeah, so
way, way
couple months
after.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
72 days. Yeah, 72 days. I know I fucked that up. But that's not really enough time for the body to be as I mean, it seemed like not enough time for it to be as decomposed as it was. Because again, flesh was missing from like the face. Like it wasn't just dried up skin. It was like and like
So like it would have been missing for many months prior. Is that what you're kind of saying? Or
I'm not saying that necessarily. What I'm saying is that the decomposition might not have all been decomposition.
okay. All
Okay,
right.
that's what I'm gonna throw out
Well, I
there.
don't know how I don't know how you speed up science back then, but um
Well, I'm
okay.
just saying it wasn't actually decomposition. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So the boys found there's a hole somewhere around here, right around lower ear, back of the head type thing. And again, they just assume, well, probably it was an animal. One person, though, one cop thinks he might have been shot from that angle because it looks like it's perfect angle for a bullet. So it's like just the size of it and everything. It's just so they're not sure exactly what
Still could have
happened.
been an animal that shot him.
Let me I don't know if you have this information, Nathan, or not, but I'm thinking just with the nature of like, baby's, skull and everything, was
Yeah.
there an exit wound for that bullet? Because I feel like that soft bone would be like really easy for a bullet to make an exit
I
wound,
don't
dude.
believe there
Yeah, but
was. But the
Steve, you're
thing
not
is
thinking
that
about the square shape.
The
It
square
like that
shape, it
that's
would have
there
that
wasn't.
bounced
yeah,
off
yeah.
the flat edges.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think there was
yeah.
like.
If it was rounded head, of course it would exit.
Yeah.
I don't think there was an identifiable exit. But the thing is that the body was so messed up that I think they were
Oh
just like,
yeah.
well, there could have been an exit. We just
It could
don't
have
know.
gone through
But
through the
what are the
okay.
holes?
Yeah.
Uh, but like so, but what they determined was that they assumed that the body had been left there that night, and they
How
started
far
to come
from the
up.
house was the body found?
It was like I
D-
said, it was not that far. It was in a field.
On the
You
property.
know, not it was like a little bit off of the property. It was nearby, and like it was a place where they had searched in their search for the kids. So it was close enough you could do that, and it was odd they hadn't found him. I'll just go ahead and point out right now the fact that there was not really any blood
Well,
there.
one of the kids was like, "Oh, that's what that we were looking for. That thing right there. Oh yeah,
Oh
I've
yeah, that's
walked
been
past
here
that like
for
8 times."
weeks.
They ended up, like I said, arresting a dude named Bruno Richard Hauptmann. He was a German immigrant, and this made sense because the ransom note appeared to have been written by someone who knew broken English, and it sounded like a German because they said the baby was in good condition and stuff like that. Um,
Liar.
yeah, right. Uh, but the guy, he was a carpenter, and that made sense too, a carpenter, because whoever did this built their own ladder, right? He claimed.
What? What evidence do we have of that going into
So when they
this?
examined the three-sectional piece ladder, they determined that it had been built using makeshift pieces,
Oh,
possibly boards from like an attic.
uh,
So they found boards in his house that they believe matched the ladder. So they were like, okay,
okay.
that makes sense. He had the money. He claimed again that his friend Isadora Fish had told him to hold it for him. Or what?
He had the ransom money.
He had bills from it. He didn't have all of it, but he had bills that were in the ransom money, and he had used it
Interesting.
to. But yes, he had not had a job for several months, which is the time it had been since the ransom handoff had occurred. So
Had he been identified by people who said they saw two men in the town asking about the house?
there was a lot of disagreement about that. Where it
Interesting.
was like originally there wasn't much about it, but once they found him, once they came forward, he was arrested. More people claimed that they had seen him, but
Hmm.
it seemed odd. Uh,
Yeah, eyewitness is not the most effective form of evidence.
yeah, I know exactly. Eyewitness testimony can be tricky, especially if you're dealing with a case with a person like Charles Lindbergh, where everybody wants to kind of be involved. In any case, Houtman was arrested, and the police pretty much decided immediately that he was the guy, and they didn't give much attention to anything that might have exonerated him, but they gave full attention to the things that would be bad for him.
Tunnel
Uh,
vision, as they call it. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Lindbergh at one point heard him. He went to the police, office, and he heard him speaking, and he said that that's what the guy sounded like because he was there when John Condon gave money to the ransomer. He's like, that's what the guy sounded like, but Lindbergh didn't have great hearing because he had been a fucking pilot. And when you are in the air like that, it's extremely loud. So you end up getting bad hearing. So that doesn't really make any sense that he for sure recognized the voice. But he may have been sure because the police told him that this guy was the culprit. And so he was maybe just going to go ahead and say whatever helped, this person go to prison. That's a possibility, right? Um, the trial was a long affair, and it was very complicated and annoying. And the judge was entirely biased toward the prosecution. The judge, at the end of the trial, actually said he went through everything, and he said, "Now the defense says that they think that this guy didn't do it. Now, does that make any fucking sense to you?" He now he didn't say the exact line, but
Come on, guys, come on.
he basically said that because he said he at one point he was like the defense contends that Mr. Lindbergh is wrong in identifying this man's voice. Now, does that make sense to you? He said that. He would say things like that, and he went through like multiple things like that. And
And
it
this
was
is the
as if,
judge?
yes, before they were to go deliberate. And it was as if the judge was telling them, make sure you say he's guilty. Okay? Because you have to be stupid to not think he's guilty. And the trial, we can go, we could,
The judge told that to the defense in close quarters,
he
is what you
told that
say?
to the jury. He
Oh,
told
oh,
that to the
oh, he told that
jury.
to the jury.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. He brought up multiple things. He was like, "Now, does that make sense to you?" As if to imply, "Of course it doesn't.
I,
Of
I,
course it
I,
fucking doesn't."
I smell a mistrial.
Well, in this day and age, it probably would have, but back then, no way,
Yeah, this
no
one,
way.
sorry, I'm just kind of shaking my head, but like this, yeah, that is probably kind of normal back then. How they did things was makes sense to be a lot different than how they would now.
Well, even no, even,
But
even back then, it was pretty unusual. But Lindbergh was so huge that everyone wanted this person to pay dearly for what they had
mm,
done because everybody loved that kid. They called him the Eaglet, and they had
Oh, the
already,
baby eagle.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly, and they had like written music about him and all kinds of stuff. So he was beloved, and so they just wanted somebody to go down. And if Lindbergh said he was the guy, he was the guy. That's how it was
mm.
gonna go. That's how it was gonna be. But to be fair to those people, there's a lot of evidence against Hauptmann. I think it's a very big hurdle if you don't think Hauptmann did it. It's a very big hurdle to explain how he had the money, um, why it is that the materials in his house are consistent with the ladder. Like
The latter
why
what?
here's another the ladder that was used. Whatever. Fucking and I forgot to mention this. He had John Condon's phone number in his closet, which he would have had to have if he was the ransomer who was talking to John Condon and got the money from him. This is all very unusual stuff, but Hauptmann was eventually convicted of the crime. The jury at first was disagreeing on whether or not he should be executed. And basically, they just stayed deliberating until they decided, yes, he's going to be executed. So I think somebody wanted them to come up with that answer. And eventually, Hauptmann was executed for the crime. Uh, it's it's a really weird situation because even if you think Hauptmann did it, it's like the O.J. Simpson trial. It's funny because earlier you mentioned the O.J. Simpson trial, and I was like, oh yeah, you're kind of dead on because it's kind of like that where it's like most people assume O.J. Simpson did it, but the police very clearly railroaded him on that and did well, they did some things they weren't supposed to do. That's why he got away with it because they did some
Okay.
things with the evidence and stuff they weren't supposed to do. And so and you had Furman or whatever saying stuff on tape. You could tell he didn't like the guy. So I think even if Hauptmann did it, it's clear that the police did not give him a fair shake. They wanted him to be the guy, and that the prosecution didn't give him a fair shake, and that the jury didn't because the judge didn't allow it. So I said all that so that I can get to the next part. But you guys please talk before we get to that.
Shit, man. I mean,
Everything
but
I've seen here, personally, um, I definitely think sorry, I forgot his name, but this German character is definitely a person of interest. I don't know. I could see myself, given all the information that was presented here, I could find myself possibly coming up with a conviction. I don't know about a an execution. I don't know if I'm as sure enough to cement an execution on a crime of, it's a death. It's a, you'd have to call it a murder. Um I'm even trying to like up my more conservify my personal politics in order to get there of your standard 1930s
Right.
um person, New Jerseyan. But yeah, no, it sucks to have a a judge like lead you into the juror room and be like, all right, you all know what the right thing to do is here, right? Wink,
Right?
wink, he did it. That is pretty crazy.
It's one of the most
That is not what
blatant.
I'd call impartial.
No, no, it's one of the most blatant cases of like, jury tampering or whatever that I've ever heard of because he just literally was like, does that make any fucking sense to you?
But yeah, but like in one of these like, these like small towns where you
Yeah.
said the population was like 900, like I feel like that's so on par, that it's so on par with something you'd see like that.
Yeah, I think that that makes sense exactly because like the people in charge of this town, they're not used to this something this big and complicated. And it should be noted that pretty much every day Hauptmann was almost lynched because everybody outside the prison just wanted to hang him. They were like,
Oh,
"Why are
then
you?"
just execute him anyway. If it's gonna happen, just
Well,
just
it's
just
the
cut out the
thing
middleman.
is that in this area that was extremely rare, and they prided themselves on the fact that they weren't like those southern states where people lynch people. And so then this guy shows up, and they're like, come on, give me some rope, let's lynch him." And suddenly it
Let's
was,
kill this fucker.
yeah, and
Hmm.
you suddenly everyone becomes a lyncher when that happens. But so there was tremendous anger about what happened, and so they were happy, of course, when the guy was considered guilty and he was executed for what he
Yeah.
did. His wife never gave up claiming that he didn't do it, and to the day she died was trying to prove that he didn't do it.
The German guy didn't do it.
Yeah, his wife.
The German guy's wife.
Yeah, his wife to the day she died, she did not give up trying
The,
to
the the man
prove
was executed
he
eventually.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
executed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, for him. So now I'm going to throw you one more little story, and then we'll talk about theories about what you guys think, what I think, blah blah
Sure.
blah. And that's
Okay.
the story of how Charles Lindbergh met a man named Dr. Alex Carrel. Dr. Alex Carrel was a French vascular surgeon, and he was an incredibly accomplished surgeon. In fact, he was a Nobel Prize winner. So, one of the smartest people, probably Lindbergh could have ever met. And the interesting thing about Carrel is, well,
He
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 invented.
specialized in turning square heads into round ones.
That's
Yes.
correct. That's correct. Uh, he met Lindbergh when Lindbergh had the baby, when his wife had the baby, because the doctor who was there had an artificial respirator with him because he was like, sometimes babies need this when they're first born. And he thought it was really interesting. So Lindbergh was like, could you make like an artificial heart for my sister in law? Which makes me wonder, like, is he still trying to fuck the sister in law and he like wants to get
Always.
her like a mechanical heart so that he
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
like breed with her? Like I don't even know what's going on with that. But so he asked about that and the guy was like, I don't really know about that sort of thing, but Dr. Alex Carrel could help you with that. So he met Dr. Alex Carrel. And Dr. Alex Carrel, again, was a French vascular surgeon. He was also a crazy phrenologist who thought that the shape of your head determined how intelligent you were. He was also a super eugenicist racist. And when he met Lindbergh, he immediately thought, this is the future. This is what the Supermen should look like.
Of course.
You
Yeah.
know, he fell in love. And the doctor was enamored with Lindbergh's ideas for building a perfusion pump, which he would use in experiments. Because the doctor would do these weird experiments with living tissue, where he would try to keep living tissue alive for extremely long periods.
Very
And
Frankenstein.
Okay.
yes, yes. And in
Yeah.
fact, there was a book called The Culture of Organs in which he said, when interviewed, that he had not only kept chicken tissue alive, but he had kept human tissue alive as well. He didn't say where he got the human tissue, but he said that he'd done that. He also said that he had transplanted a human liver into a chicken. Again, didn't say where he got the human liver. Um, He might have gotten it.
This chicken tastes weird, guys.
This chicken tastes funky.
Like, what is going on here?
Has the Minnesota Society of Eugenics inspected this farm?
Oh,
Why
they
does
love
this
it.
chicken have a liver that's 10 times the size of a chicken liver?
He uh he believed that invalids and the people who had medical problems should be euthanized. And this, of course, is very similar to beliefs in Germany at the time, which actually went into practice. And he said, you know what? We need to do more experiments for the good of science, and we need to do them on humans, not just on animals. And he would vivisection animals. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that involves cutting an animal open while it's alive, so you can see everything inside of it moving,
Everything
basically.
functioning. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a
And
vegan practice?
he said he wanted to do stuff like that with humans, and he suggested that people who have mental problems might be a good might be a good place to go with that. The
Shouldn't
really
laugh at
messed
that.
up the really messed up thing is he was not he, people didn't like run away from that idea. There were people who offered him the chance to use people like mentally unstable people for his experiments,
Mhm.
and it's very possible that he did. We don't know for a
Welcome to
fact, but
Jackass.
yeah, okay, whatever. Jesus Christ, calm the fuck down, all right? Let me just get through this, okay? So the doctor met Lindbergh. Lindbergh made this pump and helped him do these experiments. Lindbergh was doing these experiments the week that his kid went missing. He left, came back from the doctors, and then the kid went missing. Okay? Then the doctor, in his journal, says that he made a gigantic medical breakthrough from March to April. Okay? In Lindbergh's journal that he keeps, it's highly detailed. But suddenly, from March to April, nothing. Okay? Why did the kid have skin missing? Was that decomposition? Or was that something else? This doctor would eventually end up working with Vichy France when Nazi Germany, the mustache men guys, when they took over France. This doctor went over there and worked on his disgusting experiments. Not necessarily human stuff, but he would do his on
Very
paper work.
judgmental language, Nathan.
This guy went over there. He worked with the Vichy government during World War II. After World War II, people start to realize what he was involved in, and he becomes disgraced. And nobody wants anything to do with him. They basically kick him out of France. Okay? Luckily, he dies very soon after of cancer. So, no problems, right?
Luckily, lucky for everybody.
Lucky for everybody. Lindbergh, of course, years later would preside over a early draft of a biography of this man because he still loved him so much that he wanted to check the biography and make sure that it was done properly.
Oh,
Lindbergh, Lindbergh, of course, became famous for telling the United States that we should not be involved in World War II, and that the nation of Germany was a great nation, and that there was no way we could beat them if we tried. That was what Lindbergh said in the build up to World War II. And then World War II happened, and it worked out the way that it did. And he actually ended up joining the effort. But years later, he wrote a book, an autobiography, and in the book he said we should have never gotten enrolled in World War II, and Germany wasn't that bad. And his reputation was completely destroyed because suddenly everybody saw what kind of person he
it's very
was.
unpatriotic take. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, guys, I mean, the
How did he
truth of the
feel
matter
about
is that this topic
taking
is
on the
so
Japanese?
detailed. It's so detailed. It's so lengthy. I could have given you so many more details, but I wanted to just give you those basic facts, and then we could kind of talk about it. So, sorry that I went on so long, but guys, what do you think?
What was the doctor's name? I wrote everybody's name down except for the doctor.
Alex, Alex Carell. He's
Dr.
got a
Carell.
Wikipedia page, so you can look that up.
All right.
Oh, by
Wow,
the way,
Wikipedia page.
another thing about Mr. Carell. Like I said,
Dr. Carell,
famously,
please.
Dr. Carell, famously, he had kept chicken tissue alive for a certain amount of days.
Hmm.
In his notes, he crossed out chicken and wrote human.
There you
Anyway,
go.
yeah, go on, Steve.
So the month or so after the child went missing, the
Yeah.
doctor had some like big breakthroughs in his research and stuff.
Yeah, it was basically that exactly when it happened because he said it was from March to April, and the
I'm
kid went
wondering
missing March 1st.
I'm wondering if the doctor was at the threshold of this breakthrough, but all he needed to complete it was like a perfectly square human skull, and he found
Yeah.
it in the
Yeah,
baby.
what
He's
like
like, this is the
obviously
last piece I needed.
the child is dead, but maybe some tissue lives on to this day.
Yes. Here's the thing. I feel like I think that um as far as the doctor's concerned, I would bet that like after he was kind of embroiled and wrapped up in hanging out with Nazis and the Italians those damn Italians. I bet the narrative on his work like really flipped because
Oh
I
yeah,
think probably prior to like World War II, everyone was like he's making such breakthroughs and he's like really doing this and that and like advancing medical science and then like oh is he a Nazi? Oh he's a fucking monster and his experiments were whatever were terrible and this and that. So and here's the thing. I think that and you'd brought up the Lindbergh baby like decomposition was pretty far along like by the time they found it in May.
also no
Um,
blood. Also no blood.
yeah, yeah, and I got curious and I was looking up and like in May it's like it's pretty fairly warm weather and like the humidity's pretty high and so I feel like the decomposition would probably be a little more accelerated, especially if there's wildlife and stuff. I know you'd mentioned there
Right.
weren't any like bite marks or claw marks or whatever, but
Right.
yeah.
Not even
So
the animals wanted anything to do with this kid.
they're
Well,
like, no, I'm not eating
this is
that
the
fucking
thing.
cube thing.
This is the thing. This is why I think this is an interesting case. If you take a position, you kind of have to ignore aspects of the other positions.
Hmm.
That's true. Yeah, no, it is a little mixed up and muddled, isn't it?
In
Yeah.
order to take one position, you kind of have to assume one of the other things is kind of a lie or there's a misunderstanding or something, because otherwise they all kind of contradict each other in some ways.
Hmm.
Uh, and I find it fascinating because of that. Because was it Hauptmann? Was it Lindbergh? Was it another person we don't even know about? I think that's a big possibility is that it wasn't any of the people that we have suspected.
And think
Um,
about this. How big is it of Lindbergh to go on and praise uh, the German people to the U.S. government later after his own son was killed by a German? He didn't let that be a
it
hang
was a
up.
Frenchman.
And oh, it was a what?
It was a French guy.
Steve, do you have that in your notes? It was a French guy. I could have sworn he said it was German.
Dr.
You
Carell,
she, yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
the guy who hung for
Bruno,
kidnapping the
Bruno,
baby.
Oh yeah,
Bruno,
that guy was
Bruno
German.
Hauptmann,
Yeah.
Bruno
That
That's what
guy
I'm
Hauptmann.
was German.
saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
That's what I'm saying
sorry.
is
Yeah,
in
yeah,
according to the story that Lindbergh projects,
yeah,
his son
yeah,
was
yeah.
killed by a German, and yet he's going to the government and saying Germans are all right. We best not get into a war with them. They're
Right.
they're not someone we want to mess with, but we wouldn't want to. They're doing great work over there.
Right.
I, you know, I think the real point of the German connection is how into eugenics was he? And was he into eugenics enough to say, my son shouldn't be alive?
Right. Yeah,
Because,
that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Like how far would he go in his like stance on eugenics? And
yes.
I don't know, man. I feel like I feel like if you were really like into eugenics and you were wanting to kind of like get rid of this baby, he had 2 years to do it, you know, and I feel like in those 2 years he probably grew a little more connected to it, and I think that he was probably less and less you know, willing to off this baby after developing that sort of connection to it. Um, although, yeah, I don't know, dude, this
I
is a
have the
tricky
opposite
one, you
take.
know. I
I
think,
think
yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
I totally understand your perspective. That makes a lot of sense. But I also think it's possible to go the other way of like just that's 2 years of like this is a little harsh, but like hatred building up, or like two years of trying to be patient, waiting for your baby to look more normal for the hair to straighten out, and just giving up.
I think that's fair.
I
You know,
used to have, by the way, I used to have straight blonde hair. Like naturally, as a kid, I had straight blonde hair, and look where we are now. I'm the opposite of a Lindbergh.
in
You have curly hair and not much of a square head.
so again, as I said, Lindbergh forced his wife to get back on the plane very soon after giving birth. He didn't care what she wanted. He cared, what he wanted. Uh, he on one occasion, I didn't bring this up. On one occasion, in front of a reporter, when the boy was stumbling toward him, he threw a ball at him and knocked him over on purpose. And he laughed at the kid. But a lot of people think he did that to hide the fact that the kid had rickets. Because if you have rickets, you walk kind of weird, quite
One
frankly.
one thing to note though is the ball bounced directly back at him because of the flat surface of the boy's skull. It was like perfectly fucking 90
You
degrees,
guys
dude.
are really into the square head thing. You can't let that go.
But you brought that up, and I think me and Matthew were both like, all right, this is gonna like I think our ears perked up and went, this is going to be the basis of this entire podcast is this square head.
No, yeah, he that's what they say, is square. But the thing is like, okay, yes, the craziest theory is that the Nazi doctor did it, right? That's the craziest theory, is that he brought the kid to the doctor on purpose and that he helped the doctor either vivisection the kid or God knows what else, right? Um,
Pranks.
as a prank, no doubt. But that's the craziest theory, all right? But let's pull it back a little bit. What if he had nothing to do with the kid's disappearance whatsoever? But the second that the kid disappeared, he was like, okay, I've got to find my kid because, he's an extension of me. Therefore, I'm going to make sure that my possession is found. And then after about 20 minutes, he said to himself, or I could slow roll this shit and I could get rid of that fucking potato once and for all. What if that's what was really in his head? What if he didn't kill the kid, but he's like, you know what? This is the perfect position to be in where I could just let him die. And
I'm gonna do
then,
my best to not find him.
yeah, and then nobody can blame me for it. Like, even though I don't want that thing in my house. Like we don't know how he thought. Assuming that he looked down on the kid and didn't want him around, that could have been good enough reason. See, that's the thing. Nazi Doctor is pretty interesting. He's pretty crazy, and he's a real guy. Like, none of that's made up. All that's real stuff. He's a real crazy guy who said that
Hmm.
we should experiment on people. But the question is, would he have gone through all that? I believe he had the heartlessness to do it, but I don't know if he had the boldness to break that many laws to do something so
His heart was the
extravagant.
only one he couldn't keep alive.
I believe Lindbergh was kind of evil. That's my personal feeling on the man. Having read a lot of material about him, I'm making another video for my other channel where I'm mentioning talking about Lindbergh and the America First Committee, and I think the guy was just had really had things wrong with him. And like the story I told about him drowning, almost drowning rather. I think that says everything that you need to know about him is that he grew up believing that no one loved him or that the person who was supposed to love him didn't. And I think it messed him up.
Yeah.
I think this guy is like Homelander. Have you ever seen The Boys?
Yeah.
No.
I think Charles Lindbergh was like Homelander. That's what I think. And that's what I'm going to compare him to. And I I wouldn't be surprised if he took the kid to the Nazi doctor. But I think probably he just deliberately allowed the situation to not resolve properly because he didn't fucking want to find the kid.
I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about on Matthew's podcast about uh not not actively killing someone but leaving them in the like in the environment in the wilderness to die, you know.
Right, right. Charles Lindbergh is like Jigsaw. That's what you're saying.
Or about, like the guy who left his
Well,
ex-girlfriend to die in the,
Yeah,
in the
yeah, the
whatever.
Alpine divorce. Yeah, exactly.
see the that story of him like almost drowning, saving himself, and then looking up at his father who was actively doing nothing. I think yeah, that was definitely a moment in his life that must have had a lot of impact, like as it should and would. It's a fucked up thing to go through. Um, but I think you look up to your father figures, and maybe I don't know if he ever like discussed it with him, but if that happened to me, I could see that as a like a oh like my father has tested me. My
Hmm.
father has decided if I am not strong enough to save myself, I'm not strong enough to or I'm not worthy of being saved at all. And I have
Right,
passed that test. And I could see how someone who went through that could like could be someone who would side with eugenics. Like it tracks
right,
for with me. I'm not defending eugenics at all, but I am saying that if with a father that fucked up, maybe that's what leads to that.
right. And I think that's plausible. I
And
really
and his
do.
son, his son wasn't someone who could save himself from a kidnapping or I don't know what
Right.
I'm going to stop talking
I
now.
get what you're saying. He was vulnerable. And
Yeah.
yeah, what was he gonna do? Steve, what do you think? What do you think do you think it was Houtman? Do you think it was Lindbergh? Do you think it was a different person? What do you think?
Yeah, if I had to in one sentence kind of sum up what I think happened, um, I'm kind of leaning with you, Nathan. I think that he didn't do it, but I think that he was probably instrumental in kind of inhibiting the search for the baby.
I think that that's like the least insane theory,
Yeah.
right? Like because the doctor thing is possible. I genuinely think it's possible, but I also recognize that it's the most out there theory that you could have about the situation. But what I will
Hmm.
say for anybody who's curious about that aspect of the theory, there was a lot more information I did not give. That guy,
Yeah.
there was a lot going on with that guy. And I highly recommend the book, The Lindbergh Baby Kidnapping to Suspect Number One by Lisa Pearlman. Check that out. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Uh,
Absolutely.
like I said, that was only a small touch of it. There's so many more details in this case. It's insane. One last thing I do want to kind of throw out there is toward the end of their lives, uh, Anne, Lindbergh's wife, started seeing a psychiatrist, and he did not like this. He was really against it. So much so that he stopped sleeping in the same room as her and was like, I won't come back into the bedroom until you stop, going to the psychiatrist. And she was like, I don't care. It's important to me that I see the psychiatrist.
Aw.
And yeah,
Congratulations to her for stepping up to him.
probably the first
Finally,
time. Yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy.
growing a spine. That's awesome.
And later on, one of their sons had been driving around Europe on a motorcycle with his actress wife, and he was upset about it. Lindbergh was upset about it, and he was
They had
like,
more kids.
they had more
That.
kids. They had more kids.
Okay.
Yeah, they had more kids. So Lindbergh was upset about his son driving around on a motorcycle, and Lindbergh said, "Machines aren't forgiving, or machinery isn't forgiving." And his wife said, "Neither is the subconscious." And that sounds
Fucking therapy talk.
it sounds really pretentious, but it's like she's she's dead on about him. He was, recognized normal threats, but he didn't recognize the psychological threats that he probably dealt with all the time.
Mhm.
That was just a part of his life, and she saw it all the time, saw him deal with it. So I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, any closing
Have you
thoughts,
ever
guys?
noticed that,
Oh, go ahead.
the people that most need therapy are the ones that are against it?
Yes, yes, I have.
Yeah, that's my final thought. Go see therapy. If your father watched you almost drown, go get therapy.
Yeah, and don't prank with kerosene. It's not fun for anyone involved.
And my final thought is that Charles Lindbergh should have seen that episode of Ted with the talking truck, and then everything would have been fine. All right, guys, bye.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.